It's now mid-October and I dreamt about snowbiking last night for the first time in a while. It was pretty sweet because I was doing endless wheelies on this bike. And sadly, the only place that actually happens is in my dreams. So, on to more interesting things. This is a 2018 Husky 450 with a 19 CMX 129. And I just got the bike back from Mark at Selkirk, where Mark and Monica did a great job putting this thing together. The reason they had to do the redesign was because of that gap right there. The CMX kit mounts so far forward that even with the new parts, there's about 1/8 of an inch gap between the back of the skid plate and the forward edge of the track paddle. The timber sled kit sits, I would guess, 3 inches further back. Others on here would know better than I. But nonetheless, the back of the CMX system mounts to the lower shock bolt. And on the timber sled the back of the Selkirk system, not the CMX, Selkirk system mounts to the lower shock bolts. And for the timber sled kits, they can just drop straight down and then come forward. Mark had to re-machine and build all these parts. And of course, once you change one thing, you can imagine all the other parts that changed. So here's the system from the side. And I'll go over all the details of it. I'm by no means no expert. I should also say that I'm not affiliated at all with Selkirk. I paid retail for this kit. Should also say that because Mark had to design the kit, he also very kindly installed it for me. So I can't share with you the ins and outs of how to do the install. And also important that I've never ridden it. So I have no idea personally how it works, but the reason I bought it was because every review I read was fantastic. You know, it says the motor stays at engine temperature and you're not packing around a bunch of snow in the engine bay there. So on warm days, or if you want to get at the side of your motor, this simply snaps off, pops out, and slides back. The fittings that are used and the parts that are used are very nicely put together. Everything is top notch. I'm very impressed. All the machining is beautiful. Parts fit perfectly. These little snap links have little T-bars on the end and they just snap into the hole, twist, and lock into place. I've got the heated bars on this kit. This is the bypass side on the left. This valve here can be closed off if you want to put more heat into the bars. Normally it's left open, and the bypass allows for coolant to continually flow from the heat exchanger at the base of the bike, I'll show you that in a sec, through the system, circulating continuously even when the thermostat's not open, so that when the thermostat does open and the bike's at temperature, it's not dumping super cold coolant into a semi-warm motor. In really cold temperatures, Mark tells me that you can shut this valve off and that'll push more coolant, more heat into the bars. This is the supply line right here. You can't see it very well, but it goes up to the right side of the handlebar on the throttle side where you want the hotter temperatures. Mark tells me, of course, makes sense because the throttle tube is detached from the bar, and so you need more heat on the right side to have an even feel in the hand. To reinstall, it's pretty simple. On the front, I forgot to show you, is this little slider grommet. Just slides into that notch in the armor system. And it simply slides into place. It's a little hard to do with one hand. All the folds in the material, I'm not sure what this stuff is, but it's rigid and still flexible. It snaps in behind the side panel. Just wiggle it around until you get the hole just right, and then it just snaps into place. Very slick setup, extremely well designed. And then you're back to the full armor system. This panel, this metal piece here, comes off. I'll show you that in a sec. Frees up the side. That's where the 2 drain bolts are for the KTM and Husky. On the front of the armor, there's a panel right here that is used to block off the radiator, so that can easily be removed to get improved airflow on warmer days, or if you're overheating for whatever reason. Again, super quick snap link reinstallation. On the right side of the bike, same thing. You've got another upper panel and the lower panel. The lower panel has a hole for the oil sight glass. Quick release. Unsnaps, slides out, and there's the thermobob on that side. The engine armor also comes with a thick skid plate underneath that's all built into this integrated engine shroud. That plate you see at the bottom is attached to the heat exchanger. I'll pop that off, turn the video off and pop it off. Simply 4 bolts that unscrew. I should say these bolts don't need any Loctite. Mark says if you remove these Torx bolts, you should always use blue Loctite on them. So let's get that panel off. For an oil change, you simply remove the plate. It's right here. That comes off to free up the side panel, and drop the skid plate. There's the heat exchanger there with 2 lines coming in. That simply drops down. Apparently this gets zip tied up a little bit. You reach underneath there and drain. This is KTM Husky, obviously. Do the drain. Apparently it makes a bit of a mess, of course, because the drain comes right out here, drops down onto the skid plate and drains out. So there's a little bit of cleanup to do afterwards, and obviously best done when the engine's warm, so you can get as much particulate out of the motor as you can, and also makes it easier to clean up, I imagine. If you want to do a full filter change, you simply pop the side panel off. You can loosen these 3 Torx bolts and drop the panel down enough to get at the oil filter. Mark says that because the motor stays constant temperature, there's no overfueling, no moisture in the oil, and so every 3 to 5 rides is what they usually do for oil changes, which is kind of nice. You don't have to drop it off after every ride. If you want to completely remove this whole panel, you simply take this bolt here and the 3 Torx bolts, and the whole side panel comes off. And here's a close-up of the skid plate and the heat exchanger. Everything Mark does is extremely high quality. It was super fun to see his shop, high-tech sheet metal fabricating shop in Spokane. So obviously once you're done, you just bolt that back up, put this plate back on, you're good to go. As I said, I also bought the Selkirk pegs and the heated bars. I'll show you those in a sec. The pegs are bomber. I mean, I think these are a full 1/4 inch thickness here. Super nicely designed, easy to install, and obviously will clear the snow really quick. Some other subtleties that they design into the Selkirk system are these flaps that tie in the side plates to the side panel of the skid, and that actually keeps apparently some of the snow off the back of your leg that comes forward on the track. So I'll give you a slow pan of the system again. All the bends and folds. This is the Acerbis 3.1 gallon tank on this bike, and of course that would be different than the stock tanks, but you can see the finish is pretty damn impressive. I've tried making a engine blanket for these things, and I think anyone that has done that can say it's a royal pain in the ass to get all the angles right and get good coverage. So it gives me pretty good appreciation for what the guys and gals at Selkirk have done here. Very nicely made system. And while it costs a good buck, when you factor in that you've got a heat exchanger, you get a skid plate. If you get the handlebars, obviously it comes with the thermobob. And again, just such nice fitment, nice and tight, so that motor stays nice and warm and dry in there. But when you factor in that you don't have to buy a pipe guard, you don't have to buy an engine blanket, skid plate, thermobob, I think it's money very well spent. The fittings are excellent. The lines are really well made. I haven't tightened this up yet, but the lines are bomber. All the fittings are just really nicely done. I got the regular Henry Reed taper bar here. The on-off for the bars right here. Apparently at 45 degrees the bar is pretty much turned off. There's obviously full off, but you can adjust it a little bit with that valve right there. So I would say all in all, looking forward to riding. It's a extremely well made system, and if you have a bike that you want to take good care of, it seems like a pretty good way to do it with this engine management system. So there you have it. If you have any questions, just go ahead and post on this. If there's anything that I didn't show that you want to see a close-up, I'm happy to do that. By no means am I a expert in any of this, just someone who appreciates nice work, and I have to tip my hat to both Mark and Monica for excellent customer service and a top drawer product. I would highly recommend doing business with them if you're looking for a complete engine management system. It's pretty damn good value when you factor in the quality of the work, and it allows your motor to run it at a constant even temperature. So if it's not clear by what I've already said, I'm super impressed. Great people to deal with, quick responses, super helpful. I can say in my case, they went above and beyond, out of their way to help me out. I came from out of town to get this done, and they were super helpful and took extra time out of their day to make sure this got done so that they could offer this to CMX riders, and because of the close fitment of the kit. So there you go.